Okay, hello and welcome everyone. Tanya here, and I'm with Daniel Aaron, author, coach, and transformational entertainer. We met in Steve Hardison's group, The Ultimate Coach, and basically it was you opening up with a share on a short video of yourself talking about your encounter with Christ, essentially, and which caught my attention because I've also had an encounter many, many years ago in my late 20s. And that was also very like, whoa, wait a minute. Wait, what? What's happening? Wait, who's Jesus? Wait, he's making himself known? Like, what's going on here? What's this about? So we kind of connected on that. And turns out we both have had our own, awakening journeys that were kind of rocky. And so Daniel, I'm really honored that you're here. You do amazing work. And so welcome.
Thank you. I'm psyched to be here with you. It's an honor for me to be here. So cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you want to just kind of open up and share with us like what was your path? I mean, how did were you always spiritually minded when you went through your awakening? Were you already on a spiritual path, or was it something that was kind of out of the blue that kind of rocked you to the core that brought you to the spiritual path? Like what? Yeah, tell us about that.
Absolutely happy to. A couple quick pieces to set the stage for what happened. No, I was certainly not always spiritually minded. I grew up in the U.S. in Maine, lower middle class kid. My parents had once upon a time been Catholic, have basically had renounced that, given up. How could there be a God when life is so hard? And so I grew up without any religion, never went to church, and just philosophically, I was opposed to all of that. I thought, how could it be that something so important as somebody's religion, that from my even childlike perspective seemed to really rule people's lives in many ways, how could that just be this random thing? Well, I was born into this family, and so that's what I am. Like, nobody thinks about or considers that. So as a kid, I was just like opposed to that philosophically. Still, though, I was enough afraid that I said, but maybe there's a God. I don't know. I'm not going to say for sure, right? Just in case,
Just in
um,
case.
just in case. And I went through childhood with part of me knowing that there must be more to life than the yuckiness that I was experiencing, right? Yuckiness in the level of dysfunctional family and lots of nastiness there. And then also myself, I was fat, shy, depressed. So childhood was really not a fun time for me. I made it though, got to the other side. Then in my mid 20s is when the big event happened, when everything changed for me. So as I said, I was not in favor of religion. I didn't know at that point that there was something called spirituality, that there was another option or approach. Nonetheless, I had this experience where God, which is not a word I could have even used at that point in my life, but God reached down, grabbed me by the hair, lifted me up, and said, dude, there's a lot more to the world than you've been seeing. And it was like amazing, wonderful, blissful. I tasted oneness and human potential. And it was also horrible because I had no idea what was going on. I didn't understand it. I didn't know how to speak about it. I didn't know how to live what I had tasted. And my old life and belief system worldview was like blown up in an instant. So it was amazing and horrible. And then when my feet came back down to the ground, I realized like I need a new perspective, a new education. And that led me into an obsession with personal and spiritual development. which as time went on led me to understanding, oh, this is what happened. Oh, there's something called spirituality. And I got the perspective that, oh, okay, we could say that was a dark night of the soul. That was a really testing, difficult trial where it seemed internable and awful, yet led to a higher quality of being in connection with spirit. And then I've been blessed to have many more of those since then as this path has continued to unfold.
Mhm. I see, yeah. And so what was the, yeah, so you I know you traveled the path of Buddhism. You were, a sannyasin, is that right? You were a sannyasin. Um, so, yeah, so as you walked this path and you realized, "Okay, yes, there's more to this. Alright." You know, I imagine that it kind of felt like, "I need to explore and maybe educate myself." Is that how it kinda landed for you in terms of, "Okay, what's here now, and how do I work with this
Hmm.
experience?" What was the next step?
Yeah, I think that's a fair way of saying it. And I'll add on a little bit by saying it was like, because, and maybe you'll relate to this, because I had experienced this higher potential, I could not forget that. And so then that became the North Star, the guiding light for my life. And so everything on some level, consciously or not, from then on was oriented toward, how do I live that ongoing? How do I experience that? Or another way of saying it is, my path became, where is the next key and what's the next lock that will free me, that will help me to awaken, that will help me to experience the truth of who I am. And for 10 years, that's all I did. It was just literally like, every moment I'm saying, what else? And first thing for me was shamanism, and then meditation and yoga and breath work. And over the course of those 10 years, living at centers and universities and ashrams and being with gurus and this healing modality and this certification course, like, you name some kind of methodology for awakening or getting free or healing, not only did I go into it, I probably got certified in it.
Yeah, yeah, and so at what point did you realize, "Okay, enough." Like, enough of going going chasing after the shiny objects.
Well, I have two responses to that. Um, and the second one first, which is, I have not decided that, although I don't think of it as shiny objects at this point. I think of it as, let me put it this way. I have come to disidentify with a term that's often bandied around in the spiritual world, which is enlightenment. I no longer believe in enlightenment, because the word implies dark then light, before and after, started and done. And
Yeah,
my firm knowing now through experience is, it ain't like that. It's not like I was broken and now I'm fixed. It's like I was asleep and now I am awakening, and it's a spectrum, and there are infinitely more levels of awakening to love and peace and freedom. So I'm still 100% enthralled by and committed to expansion and growth and possibility. Now, that said, I mentioned earlier 10 years, and that first awakening for me was 29 years ago. The first 10 years was obsession with the spiritual path and awakening. And 10 years into that, I got another divine whack upside the head, which said, it had actually literally five commandments with that one. And one of them was time to put down roots, because I had been very much nomadic prior to that. And part of what was carried with put down roots is now my focus was to be more about service and less about learning. It's like the yin yang. The first 10 years, the bigger part of that circle was about my learning, growth, evolution, and I was serving and coaching and teaching during that time. And then after that 10 years, it kind of inverted, so that more of my focus was to be toward and for other, while of course continuing to look within and evolve as part of the process. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense because it's true. There is no end. And I think that's kind of what I found myself when I first heard enlightenment, and it was so taught that that's the most important thing. That's the only thing that really matters about being human is to find enlightenment. And so it was always this thing of like, oh, got to kill the ego and find enlightenment, and good luck trying to control the mind. I mean, that just drove me crazy. And but yeah, you're absolutely right. There isn't this, well, I'm enlightened and now I'm done. And I just get to, it's like, no, the life continues, and we've all heard chop wood, carry water. Um, so yeah, so what I'm hearing you saying is, it's not that you have said, okay, no, I'm done with learning. I've learned everything I need to learn. Now I'm serving. It's like, no, I'm serving and I continue to learn and develop and expand and grow, which is, I think, obviously, if you're a coach, necessary, right? Like you can't not have that. So yeah, yeah. Um, so I'm curious, like I really love what you have on your website, which is make your life a masterpiece. And so you kind of present yourself as someone who offers to kind of be this co-creative or creative partner, right? So yeah, talk about that. Like, so make your life a masterpiece. Like that's a pretty powerful statement. Because I think most people don't even think that that's even possible for them. That, what do you mean? My life can be a masterpiece? Like I live in mediocrity, or whatever it is. Um, yeah. What can you say about that?
Oh man, I can talk about that until the cows come home, and they're far out from home right now. However, I won't. What I will say though is this: another quick bit of story to set this stage, which is, I said a little bit about my childhood earlier. When I was 4 years old, I was standing in the front yard of my family home, and back in the house, they were doing their usual thing, yelling, screaming, throwing stuff, all that. And I'm in the front yard, a little more pleasant out there. And one particular day, I noticed some of my neighbors. It was like, must have been afternoon, coming home from work and, kind of shuffling from car into the house. And I had this thought, like, yeah, they're just going through the motions. That's what they do. And then the next flash was, there must be more to life than this, right? More than this and more than that. And even though I essentially forgot about that just to get through childhood, it's always stayed with me that we're not here to just get by, to survive, right? And yeah, there is a biological part of us. I call it the human animal survival part. That's the imperative for that part. However, there's also a spirit part that is here to thrive and evolve and is on an adventure. And I think another piece clicked for me when at some point I read this interview with Mahatma Gandhi, and the interviewer said, toward the end of his life, Mr. Gandhi, what's your message to the world? And his response was, my life is my message. And part of what evolved in me from that is, well, Tanya, you're not meant to be I was going to say Martin Luther King Jr., not him either, or Mahatma Gandhi, and neither am I. However, our lives are just as important and purposeful, and most of us have grown up with this conditioning that says you have to settle, right? Just be okay with the way things are, right? So when I work with clients, one of the first questions I ask is, what have you been tolerating in your life?
Mm.
Because what happens for so many of us is we don't start out that way as kids. We don't go like, oh, I'm going to have a boring, ordinary life that's safe and has no adventure. And we say, I'm going to be an astronaut or a ball player or the president or whatever it is. We have these great dreams, and then something comes along, a failure, quote failure, or somebody saying, oh, I don't want you to get hurt, don't set your sights too high. And then we go, oh, okay, better lower my standards, right? And then we just start to think, yeah, small is probably better, it's safer. And that's what the survival part wants. Yet there is a unique purpose for all of us. Anything is possible. So yeah, I'm a really strong advocate for, a champion for living our dreams, for creating our lives into whatever we want. It's entirely possible. And and if somebody's happy with just okay, like, and that works for them, awesome. I know for me it doesn't. And so usually the people I work with are like, I know there's more. I know there's more possible for me of love and joy and service, or just enjoyment.
Yeah, right. Beautiful. So, um, so what is for somebody that's interested in wanting to they have this calling, like you're saying, that either it's a soul purpose burning, they just know there's something more, um, but they don't know how to get started. It almost, I mean, I think for some people it can be kind of overwhelming of just like, okay, I know I can't stay here, but I also don't know what the next step is. So how do you help them kind of peel back the layers to see what's there? I mean, how do you create the riverbanks for them to finally be able to like, okay, this is what you want. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. What's alive?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm with you. It can be overwhelming and scary, and right. And there is again that biological part of us that says, keep it safe, keep everything the same, right? Because anything that's different, that's the unknown. And to the survival self, the unknown is danger. So, I mean, the very first thing is like just giving ourselves the permission and the encouragement to dream, to imagine, to trust and know that whatever is alive in us is worthy, is that we're worthy of that it's possible. Right? There's that great line from Napoleon Hill: whatever the mind can conceive, the being can achieve. I might have paraphrased that a little bit, right?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mhm. I
do you
know
want
that.
to say more?
No, it brought up to my I remember this journal I had as a 13-year-old. I think that was, like, on the cover of this journal that I had, is that quote, and it really had stuck with me. Like, whatever you dream of, you can achieve it,
Yeah.
essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and that connects to the amazing quotation from Goethe. Like, a lot of people know the second part of it, which is, um, whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, magic, and power in it. Begin it now, right? And we, for most of us, we've heard that part. We go, hey, wow, that's inspiring. Begin it. Okay, let's get going. The first part, though, is so powerful too. The first part of that quotation says, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. The moment one truly commits oneself, then providence moves too, right? So, like the two things before you even have a conversation about, okay, what's your dream and what do you want to do and how do we get there, is like, one, it's okay to dream. It's good to dream. If you got the dream, that's for a reason. Two, if you commit to it, right? If you say, I don't know how I'm going to get there, I'm going to get there though, right? Or die trying, I'm going to get there. Then all sorts of things start happening. Providence, magic, manifestation occurs, which none of us could have imagined would happen. And all of that comes from our choice, our decision, our commitment, from dreaming.
Hmm. Yeah. So have there been moments in your journey as a coach where you've wanted to throw in the towel, like, this isn't working?
42,368 of
What is
those.
So what is it? What is it that people have to have? Is it really just as simple as don't give up?
Well,
There's that
let's make
tension, right? The doubt comes in. There's no evidence that this is working. How much longer can I try to make this happen? Maybe I should just go get a job and settle like all everyone else has been doing. How do you What is it? Is there a secret? Or is it, yeah, tell us.
yeah. Well, let's make an important distinction because you said, is it really as simple as don't give up?
Yeah.
And yes and no. I mean, it is that simple, right? Right. Simple, though, does not mean easy, or doesn't always mean easy, right? Really simple, right? And if I go to one part of my education is from the scripture of yoga, and in the yoga scripture, one of the most basic things is Patanjali, the author of the Yoga Sutra, gives a one-step plan, a three-step plan, and an eight-step plan for how to awaken, how to be free, how to know ourselves as the same as the divine, samadhi in that language. And the one-step plan is know that you are God. And if
That's
you
the one.
know that you are God, you have the identity of God. That's it. And
Boom.
and that's Byron Katie says,
Yeah.
love what is. Eckhart Tolle says it's the power of now, right? And that's always available to us, right? In every moment we can say everything is perfect. I am perfect. Life is perfect. However, for most of us, it's not quite easy all the time to do that. Right.
Mhm.
So yeah, it is as simple as don't give up, right? The only Winston Churchill said success is defined as stumbling from one failure to another without a loss of enthusiasm. Well, that's challenging. So how do we do that? One step at a time, getting ourselves back up,
Mm.
keeping ourselves connected to, associated to what really matters, what our dreams are, being in proximity of people like you that are inspiring and encouraging, right? Studying the models of the saints and our heroes and people that have created amazing things,
Mhm.
right? There are all kinds of tools that we can use to help us to keep going, to get back up.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you I'm curious, in your journey, is who would you say, or if there's a 2 or 3 people, who were the most impactful in your life that
Sure.
made the biggest difference in terms of you, you know, finding your path, following your soul purpose, yeah, becoming your fullest potential self?
Yeah, well, I'm
What were their
incredible.
messages?
Sorry, say that again?
Sorry, and what were their messages? What led?
Yeah, I'm really, really blessed because I've had many, many, many incredible teachers, mentors, guides, And I say blessed, and that's true. And I'm also blessed that, contrary to male stereotypes, I'm the kind of dude who will stop and ask for directions, right? So I have sought out, like, I've seen people that have something that I don't have, a freedom or an ability to love or to create, and I've said, "Ooh, I want to be near them so I can learn more of that." Um, so I'll say a couple in response to your question. The first, though, was really pivotal for me in my freshman year of college. And I messed up, screwed around so much in high school that even though I was smart, I ended up with poor grades because I just didn't do the work. It didn't seem important to me. Right? And I became a quote underachiever. So I ended up going to dipshit university in Podunk, Virginia. Sorry for the crass language. Um, and I was really like, I was a fish out of water. I was used to being around a lot of, like, kind of academically bright people. However, every cloud has a silver lining, and we never know what the gems are in the path that we are given. And I had started out as a music major thinking I'm going to be a concert musician. Realized, yeah, I don't have the discipline to really do that. I stumbled into a philosophy class, found out I really loved it, took another one, and I was about to transfer from that university to another one at the end of my freshman year. And I had this amazing professor that first year for a few different classes, a philosophy professor. His name is Dr. John S. Peel. And at the very end of my freshman year, we're saying goodbye, and I felt bad to leave him because he really recognized me as a sort of a passionate student who was doing well, and so we'd connected and bonded, and we're saying goodbye. I'm in his office, stereotypical academic dark office, bookshelves and everything, and he says to me, something that might help you. So, okay, what's that? And he said, my father is kind of a famous guy. He wrote a book that was very well known. He said his name is Norman Vincent Peale, and I had never heard of him. And Norman Vincent Peale, for anyone who doesn't know, wrote
Familiar.
a book. He wrote a book called The Power of Positive Thinking, and so he and coined that phrase, and has been one of the most influential thought leaders in personal and spiritual development in our era, and continued to serve and teach and lead seminars into his 90s, right? So what his son, my professor, Dr. Peale the younger, said to me is, but his famous book is great, but it's his autobiography. And I recommend that you read it. There's something you have in common with him. So, being a good student, as soon as I got home to my summer break, I got the book right away and I read it. And I found out that his father, who became such a massive positive influence in the world, like me in the early part of his life, struggled horrifically with shyness and lack of confidence, right? And so my professor, Dr. Peale, introduced me to philosophy and gave me a love of wisdom as philosophy is defined, and also introduced me to personal and spiritual development via his father, and helped me to realize that in order for me to fulfill my mission, which I had a sense of already, I needed to overcome that fear and that shyness, the selfishness that was driving the shyness. So that's the first one that comes to mind.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can relate to that. Shyness, I was also a very shy, easily intimidated child. I mean, even well into my adulthood, it's just taken me years and years and years to work through that. So yeah, it is, and you're right, it's ego driven. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, I remember when one of my yoga teachers a few years later, I was sitting in a big class, like 100 people, and I was doing what I do, the eager student, sitting in the very front row. Amazing teacher, and she was speaking to the whole room, but looking straight in my eyes. I was only like 5 feet away from her, And she said, shyness is really selfishness.
Mm.
And when she said that, with her eyes boring into me, I was like, no, no,
No, it can't be true.
I still wanted to argue and cling on to my shyness, and then I sat with it a minute and I was like, yeah, it's all about me. What do they think of me? Am I good enough? Like, that's all of what the shyness was. Yeah, it's
Afraid to be
powerful.
seen. Yeah, all of that. Man.
Yeah.
Um, well, I know we could go on and on and on. Um, so I guess what I want to ask now is, yeah, how can people work with you? What do you tell us about what you offer? And who do you
Thank
work
you.
with? Who is the person? Who is the person that's for you? Like, you know?
Yeah, well, here are the characteristics that work. Well, we talked about it a little bit already, because the people for whom life is good, fine as it is, that are happy with what they got, blessed be, like,
Yeah.
that's awesome, right? Um, I'm not able to serve them very much because my orientation is toward those who are hungry for
Yeah.
more, who are eager to experience more of their potential for life. And connected to that, there has to be some courage and commitment, because change is typically not easy. Transformation, going from one state of being to another,
Mhm.
it means being uncomfortable, facing some shadows, trying on new ways of being. So I work really well with people that are committed to that are up for the adventure, and especially who have an orientation toward giving more to the world, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so those are kind of the folks that I love supporting and connecting with. That's our tribe. That's my tribe.
Well, yes. I hope everybody heard that. Yes. I love those kind of people too, because I really do feel that, yeah, we're at this point in humanity right now where it's like, pardon my French, but shit or get off the pot, man. Like, it's time to go. So if you've got something that's inside of you that wants to come to life and you've got a purpose, like, it's now time. It's really there isn't a whole lot of time to waste, and if you have that inside of you, then yeah, you are here for a purpose, and actually you're part of this big puzzle piece, a big puzzle piece of the puzzle of all of this. And so, yeah, and so if you're needing support, then yeah, absolutely, you're going to want to be open to, yeah, receiving guidance to kind of like, let's get the show on the road. Um, and you also have, you've written books, correct? Can you list those off for us?
Yeah, well, one main book. It's called The Art of Spiritual Leadership: 40 Laws to Transform Your Life and the World. And that's available in all the places that books are found these days. And the Audible version is there, and I read it. Um, and yeah, and I have a show also called The Art of Vibrant Living Show, a live video show similar to what you're doing here. And part of how I work and part of how I serve in the world is I spend a little bit of time with a lot of different people. So if somebody's here and they're like, yeah, I'm kind of curious, I got a feeling there's more for me, then hey, I invite you to have a conversation, and there's no charge for that, right? I help people to see and know things that can be different in their life and or business. And yeah, some of those people make a bigger commitment, and we do a lot of amazing work together, and some don't, and that's fine. I love meeting people, and I love supporting, finding out what people's mission and glory is, and helping create some miracles and breakthroughs.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. So yeah, so all of you that are watching, the replay or here live, looks like there's one person. Go to danielaaron.com and check him out. And you're on Facebook. You're on LinkedIn. Yes. you mentioned your channel, your podcast. So yeah, and I feel like you're just a soul brother. And yeah, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Well, likewise, Tanya, thank you for having me, and thanks for doing this. You know, it's really an act of service, an act of love, what you're doing to put your energy into creating this new earth consciousness. So thank you for doing that, and thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, awesome. All right, much love, everybody. Mahalo, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks, Daniel.
Yep. Aloha, y'all.
Bye.